Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well. It's Friday. We're here in the Northeast and it is sweatshirt weather. It's fall, so I hope you're enjoying that. I'm going to continue today with my series on inventory. And one of the big questions I've talked about and discussed in prior videos is understanding when and how much inventory you need to have on hand. So I want to go through a couple of scenarios with you, different strategies that companies will use, and we'll go from there, okay? So the first is you have to understand there's different demand types, okay? You have independent demand and dependent demand, okay? And independent demand really relies on forecasting, okay? And we talked about forecasting in prior videos where you receive that forecast from the customer. It gives you an idea of what they're going to order. Now, sometimes forecasts can fluctuate. They can be fudged by certain people just to push numbers up. I'm going to say it, right? And so how do we counter that, right? Well, that in some cases, you're going to have additional safety stock to make sure you're covered for those fluctuations, okay? Then you also have dependent demand, and that's more internal. What that means is, if you think about it, you have vertical and horizontal. What that means is vertical, you have one SKU to one SKU, meaning in order to produce that SKU, it's dependent on having this other SKU. And then when you think about the horizontal demand piece, all it is in order to produce that SKU, it's going to depend on having multiple SKUs, okay? Now let's take a look at a few methods, right? First, you have the fixed order approach. And in this chart, these lines here, all they are inventory levels going up and down, okay? And the axis here is units, and the bottom axis is time. So as inventory levels are coming up and then they're coming down as they're being produced, that dotted line coming across here is your order point, right? When you're going to order more inventory. But then below that dotted line, okay, is your lead time. And what the lead time takes into consideration is the amount of time you're going to need to place that order so it comes back to you so you have enough stock in the manufacturing plant to produce, and now your inventory levels come back up so you can keep producing, okay? So one of the things that you're trying to figure out is, well, how do we plan inventory around that? You know, I don't know. So when you think about your order point, all that formula is it's your anticipated demand times your lead time. So let's think of an example. Let's say you produce, I don't know, cell phone cases, okay? And you know in a given day that your anticipated demand for those is going to be about 200, okay? And the lead time to get them is 3 days. So 200 times 3 is 600, okay? So anytime you get down to that 600 case count, that's your order point. That's where you're going to order more, okay? Next, we're going to talk about lot for lot. And all that simply is ordering what was sold or removed, right? It's almost like a one-to-one. So I'm going to try and use an example to explain this. Let's think about a hardware store. And a hardware store has multiple items, okay? And as, let's just say it's probably a quarter. In a quarter time, 3 months, items were bought and removed out of their inventory, okay? And to identify those, they might have a point of sale system where they can look that up and refer to that data. So now they're going to order exactly what was sold in that quarter. So it's lot to lot. Does that make sense? Next, you have economic order quantities. I've seen a lot of this in my career, okay, where you have a supplier where they have a set amount of what you have to order from them. Maybe it's a 2-pallet minimum, maybe it's a full truckload minimum. And the reason they do that is they're trying to control their inventory. And the reason they're doing that is, one, the demand is constant, okay? The cost is constant. They know the demand's gonna be satisfied because they're setting those parameters in place to make sure that inventory is the same each time. They're also doing it because the items are not discrete. And what I mean by that is those items aren't needed or other items aren't dependent on that to be used in production. So it's just specific for that customer, okay? Then you have min-max. And all that sense is if you come back over here, you essentially put 2 dots on these lines, right? You have a minimum order point. So when it gets down to a certain level, like let's say that's 600, right? You're gonna reorder. But then you have a max number where if it goes above that, you're not ordering because all of a sudden now, well, wait a second, we have enough inventory, maybe sales are slowing down, we don't want to have excess inventory. So that's min-max, okay? And the last one is just in time. And just in time is you have, and I've seen this where I had a customer, they made industrial boilers, and their supplier, they would basically only bring in enough to meet their orders because they didn't want excess inventory hanging around. On the flip side, once they finished manufacturing and producing that boiler, okay, there were orders placed against those boilers. So there was no extra industrial boilers sitting around their warehouse. Those were made to order items that had orders against them because they didn't want to have any stock sitting around. So that's what they call just in time. So I hope this helps, gives you an idea of inventory, when and how much to order. And I appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and have a great day, guys.